For the ones that you are actually seeing for fertilizer, this was actually the criteria was actually that this is a manufacturer. They were able to manufacture what was awarded to them, and then looking at the ability to create manufacturing jobs, that was the criteria. But normally, we do try to go for best evaluated and to spread them out as much as possible. I submit.
Thank you. There was an issue of an evaluation report to be provided. Where's procurement? Where's the one in charge of procurement? Okay, Mr. Procurement Officer. PS, my question, if my memory serves me right, I just want this question to be answered, is that you have a manufacturer who we don't dispute is manufacturing or blending. If I can actually sum it all, currently in Zambia we don't have a manufacturer where people are blending, FSG is blending, same with Capital, they're blending, they're getting ingredients and put them together. And probably why we're qualifying them as manufacturers is they've got a plant where they've got a bagging machine, then because these fertilizers come in 1 ton, I can bag it at home. So anyway, suffice to say that is you have a manufacturer who is expensive than the retailer. Then what criteria should we use? Because we understand the pricing of this commodity. There were retailers who were cheaper than the manufacturer. Maybe procurement, you can help us answer that question. And we need the evaluation reports for these some of these contracts. You can proceed.
Thank you, Chair. The evaluation reports are available at the office, just that I think it was not part of this, we would have carried them with us. As to the awards, actually they were the lowest evaluated bidders here, and that is why they appear in here. We don't just award anyhow, but we follow the criteria in terms of awarding. They're always the lowest evaluated bidder following the criteria given in the bidding document. I submit.
Thank you. Any follow-up question? Honorable Amnima.
Was this bid advertised?
Thank you. Procurement, you can proceed through the PS.
Thank you. This was an advert, a national advert that was given last year, advertised to the whole country, and the people bidded accordingly, and they were awarded according to the lots. I submit.
Yes, Honorable Amnima.
Chair, the procurement committee form, I don't know, the evaluation forms should be accompanied with the advert. We want to see those documents.
Thank you. Procurement, you are guided. As we finish the meeting, we'll guide you that those documentations are provided to that effect, so that Auditor General can also look at them, and members as well look at them, the adverts, and maybe just further clarification. I think also would want to see the bid document, because we want to know as well how many lots can you give to a particular supplier. I believe it should not be more than 3, or you put yourselves there how you want it to look. If you can say we're giving more than 4, we cannot give more than 4, we cannot give more than 2, I think provide that as well, so that we can look at that, what it was clearly stipulating, so that we are all comfortable on these aforesaid tenders. Because I think the progressive move also, it's very, very important that we empower Zambians as well to that effect, so that even them tomorrow they can have these blending factories in Zambia. Yeah, because it's important. That's the way to go. In Eastern Province there is phosphate, in Chongwe there is phosphate, So that's free information. People can set up and get ingredients from China and blend and make if it will even be cheaper, as it were. So thank you so much. If there is no Honorable Daka.
Chair, I think we should also request for the tender documents, the submission that is the suppliers, for the very suppliers in question, so that we can also appreciate their submissions. I submit, Chair.
Thank you. Through the PS, I think you'll be guided. We can proceed. Honorable Wamnyima.
Thank you, Chair. I just want to move to failure to provide contract on page 5 of the controlling officer submission. You contracted Magnum Security for 3 months. The contract lapsed, and according to your submission, you engaged them on a temporal measure. So I want to understand on what terms you base your payments on to Magnum when there was no contract. After the contract lapsed and you extended their services, on what terms did you base the payments to them when there was no contract? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Mwila, then Honorable Wamnyima. Oh, Honorable Lumai.
Thank you very much, Chair. On the same issue, I want to take the witness to part of the response on page 5. Paragraph 2 of the response, it's saying that regrettably, in this regard, the process regrettably delayed in that it became imperative for the ministry to engage state security wings to conduct a comprehensive security vulnerability assessment, whose recommendations were to be incorporated in the terms of reference for the security services that were to be procured. For me, I take this to be the main reason why there was a delay in engaging or in coming up with a substantive security firm. So then I'm wondering why, under the corrective action, the officer is being charged, when in fact I think that the incorporation of the state security to provide input, obviously the officer could not have done anything until this input from the security wings was obtained. So why are we charging the officer? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. PS, you can proceed with those 2 questions. Thank you.
Honorable Wamnyima, the payment terms to Magnum were based on the contract that expired. So they continued working on the same number of guards, same amount of equipment, and same payment. And then, Honorable Mwila, the officer was charged because they were supposed to be providing contract management services. So they should actually have been able to alert administration that this contract is about to expire, so that we could then make an extension if necessary until we had finished the appraisal with the security services. I submit.
Honorable Wamnyima can proceed.
Oh, thank you, Chair. I was just trying to think about it. Did you get clearance from the Attorney General to make a payment on an expired contract? Because you cannot pay on an expired contract. What you did here was an illegality. A contract has a fixed term. The term expires, you extend it without recontracting, and you are making this payment. What informed you? Was this cleared by the Office of the Attorney General?
Thank you. PS, you can answer that. Probably your Director of Finance can answer that question. Because where do you base your payment? Yeah, there's no basis if the contract has expired. And anyway, you can proceed, Director of Finance.
Thank you, Chair. The Magnum Security Services still continued providing the services. Unfortunately, it was on an expired contract which has been regulated by the ministry. So the Magnum Services still provided the invoicing based on the previous contract that was unfortunately expired. Since the service was provided by the service provider, then the ministry was obliged to make the necessary payment.
Honorable Daka.
I submit.
Thank you, Chairperson. Of course, Director of Finance, of course, through the PS. You know, whenever a contract has expired, there's a process of revalidating it. I'm sure you are aware about the revalidation. Why didn't you revalidate the contract before you could start committing yourself financially? You know quite well that it's an illegality. Why did you proceed? It's not that it's a closed matter that when a contract has expired, you cannot revalidate it. There's procedure. So the committee would want to know, why didn't you revalidate the contract before you could start honoring payment under the same? Mr. Chairperson, I thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Amnyima.
Chair, further, who was giving authority to pay on an expired contract? You cannot base your... First of all, you had your legal relationship with Magnum ended when the contract lapsed. You did not renew it. Who was authorizing these payments and what informed? And why, Chair, was there no consultation from the Office of the Attorney General on this particular issue?
Thank you. PS, you can make those clarifications to that effect.
Sorry, Chair, I'm just trying to establish the correct process of how this contract actually moved.
So maybe Director of Finance can clarify, or is it procurement, is it HR?
Director HR and procurement, they're actually sitting next to each other.
Okay, so Director Procurement, you can proceed. Then HR also proceed, since procurement falls under HR. So procurement, you can proceed.
The contracts come to procurement after a word is coming from the user department. And these contracts are coming, this is a security firm, it falls under HR. And then this is why the officer was charged earlier on, because it didn't intimate to the management that this thing is coming and you need to do this validation, or even just to renew it, in short. That's why actually the officer was charged in that case. Thank you.
Director HR.
Thank you, Chair. For the contract, when it expired, there was a write-up to procurement, and that's why they wrote to. If you have gone through the document where we are saying on 1st March 2022, the minister entered into a contract with Magna for a period of 3 months, from 24th March 2022. So this was presented before the committee, the Ministerial Procurement Committee, and the 3 months were given for the contract to run. So after that, there was a write-up to procurement to have the services renewed, and the whole process had to start. And the current status is that we had to terminate that contract with Magna, and we have a new firm after Attorney General cleared everything. Thank you. I submit.
I don't even know where to start.
Chair, I'm getting confused. Which contract were you terminating with Magnum? Because your contract with Magnum expired. In fact, you had no contract. You proceeded to work with them. We don't know what relationship you had with them. Only you know. Because here, So you terminated which contract? And that clearance you are talking about from the Attorney General, where is it in this document, in the appendices? I understand this person was charged, but your explanation is just creating more questions than answers. So the contract, you are saying you no longer have a contract with Magnum because you terminated it. Which one is it that you terminated? Then secondly, where is the clearance from the Attorney General that you have mentioned in your submission?
Thank you, Honorable Daka. You can switch off the mic.
Thank you, Chair. Just to add on to what Honorable Mnyima said, Chair, when a contract has expired, you don't need to terminate it, which means it has done justice to itself. Now, you are saying that you terminated and re-engaged. I mean, what criteria did you use to engage? Was it an open tender or selective tender or direct bidding? I mean, what sort of procurement method did you use to re-procure Magnum? The committee is interested to know that. And in fact, you have evaluation reports to that effect. Can you make it available before this committee? I submit, Mr. Chairperson.
Thank you. Through the PS, clarification, procurement.
The evaluation reports are available. It was done through selective. After security firms gave us the terms of reference, and this took a bit long for us to come up with the terms of reference and compile, then later take it to Attorney General after everything was done. Including the clearance for this is available actually, the office. Can be made available for verification.
So, Honorable Daka, they is selective, as intimated by the procurement. Yes, Honorable Mnyima.
Chair, can procurement and finance run us through what you're talking about? A contract lapses, it expires. What next do you do? You continue paying where there's no contract. This is what the audit query is here. And we're asking you, what is this relationship you had? What were you paying for on a contract? The submission is that you accept. So from not having a contract to unilaterally selecting Magnum again, run us through the chronology of events. The contract expired. What next did you do when it expired? You continued paying on a contract that's not there. Then what next? At what point did you reevaluate? Did you bid? At what point did you seek clearance from the Attorney General?
Thank you. PS, you can proceed, or is it through procurement?
When you go back to the answer, I think we maybe didn't bring it out clearly that we are apologizing and we've accepted that there was a lapse on our part. What had actually happened that the contract from with Magnum was for a period of 3 months. That was the extension that was there. And then when it expired, that's where the lapse occurred, in that we no longer extended it, but they continued providing services at our ministry. The reason why we brought in the state security wings was that the services that were being provided were actually not adequate. So we needed to have a change of the terms of reference that were going to be used before we recruited another security firm. And so we did get a comprehensive report from the security wings, which we then used to design the solicitation document that was sent out to security companies. And out of that bid, I think what is also maybe has been mixed up or we have not articulated properly is that when we are speaking of a new contract, we are actually speaking of the new service provider. And on that one, we have followed procedure and I've had it cleared by the Office of the Attorney General. But other than that, we agree that we have been found wanting, and that is why this is still in the audit audit report. I submit.
Thank you. Progress, or we're on the same? Okay. Honorable Daka, then Honorable Amnyima.
Thank you, Chairperson. Since you have acknowledged that you are found wanting with regard to this audit query, I mean, what is it that you have put in place now with regard to the management of contracts that are running in your ministry so that we avoid the repeat of this kind of an audit? I submit, Chairperson.
Thank you. Honorable Amnyima.
Thank you, Chair. I was looking at the Appendix 4, which talks of the officer charged for negligence of duty. And this officer seems to be an administrative officer. So all the other officers were doing correct things. It's only this, the procurement and HR, you did your job, and the poor administrative officer failed to do a job. Controlling officer, I would like to know whether it is fair in your HR process to just discipline an administrative officer when the expiry of a contract sits with procurement. The contract sits with procurement. So procurement chair failed to do their duty on this particular issue. Then you just discipline an administrative officer. We want to know whether this appendix, your position is that she's the only one who was negligent in her duty. Everyone else was competent, they did their duty well, and you paid on an expired contract. Is this the submission? I submit, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Amnyima. PS, you can clarify those two issues, the way forward, what mitigation measures you put in place to ensure that this does not happen moving forward, and also the question from Honorable Amnyima in terms of disciplinary measures which you instituted against the administrative officer. You can proceed. Thank you.
Honorable Lungu, the way forward is that we have taken account.
Honorable Daka.
Oh, Honorable Daka, sorry. I don't know why I got you the Lungu. No, it's not the same. We have noted that we did need to improve how we were managing contracts. So we have taken advantage of the contract training that has been provided through ZPPA, and have trained a number of officers. And then we are also now mindful to not overload contract managers with the number of contracts that each person is managing. So we spread it out more. So this is the first full year since we started spreading out the contracts more. So we hope that the next audit we will not be found wanting in this area. Honorable Amnyima, Mr. Mutumba, please take that one.
Thank you. Who's procurement? Okay. Procurement, you can proceed.
The issue of not punishing maybe the head procurement. I'm trying to explain here. My responsibility is to come up with a contract, and it does not really rely on me. It relies with the different departments who are the owners of the contracts. I do it on their behalf, even to get that contract up to securing it with even Attorney General. So the contracts are lying with the departments. And then that's why we have contracts managers. And among those, this is why you've seen the charging of the officer here, who should have intimated to management in her department to say there is this. And that is why you've seen that person having been charged to that effect. I submit.
Thank you. You can proceed. I think that was the last item. We go to implementation of social cash transfer program under the ministry. I think this should be paragraph 18. We can proceed. Honorable Muila can proceed.
Thank you, Chair. On the budget and funding, I know, Chair, generally, I should say that one of the complaints that comes from the beneficiaries of the social cash transfer, the delayed payments, and it's because they're paid, I think, every 2 months. Now, I take note they would actually prefer to be receiving every month. So on the funding, I note the response that 394 million was received in December, but this was paid in the 2023 cycle. I've looked at the support documentation that the communication came on the 6th of December. So to avoid these complaints from the beneficiaries, was it not possible that between the 6th of December and the end of the year, these monies could not be paid to the beneficiaries? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. That is budget. Sorry? Come again, Honorable, you can proceed. Sorry?
On cards.
Yes, you can proceed.
Yes,
Order, Chair. On, honorable members, on cards, we skipped it. It was cleared. We were guided before the meeting.
By Auditor General?
Yes, please. So we go to 2.
Okay, so...
Failure to deduct and emit in NIMA.
So cards were guided by Auditor General. Operational matters, if there's nothing, you proceed to 2. Failure to deduct and remit NIMA. Contributions. You can proceed. Honorable Mnyima.
Thank you, Chair. Controlling Officer, audit query here on failure to remit NIMA contributions. And I just want to understand why it took the Office of the Auditor General to pick this up, that NIMA deductions were not being submitted. Because this simply says that without the audit, the status would have continued. So why did it take the Office of the Auditor General to discover this? Do you have internal auditors who can pick such oversight at the ministry? Chair.
Thank you. And I think I also want a submission from HR. This is more an HR issue, and also Director Finance, because there's an indication. It's like you've got a plan, and you know that is a statutory issue. It should be done. I think it should be instigated or triggered by HR. These are contributions for this medical scheme. So maybe HR, you can guide us with that through the PS. Then Director Finance, also have your comment on this issue through the PS. And then there's a question from Honorable Mnyima, which I think PS you can take or you can delegate. So Director HR can proceed through the PS.
Thank you, Chair. For the failure to deduct and remit NIMA contributions, this one is not on the PEMIC payroll. These are officers under the project. So I would request Mr. Nyango, the Director Social, since it falls under his office, to amplify on this one. Thank you.
Thank you. Where's Mr. Nyango? Mr. Nyango can proceed and tell us.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, honorable members. Yes, Chair, what we have reported on page 8 is that this was an oversight on our part, and we regret that this matter prolonged for this long. But moving forward, we have rectified the situation, and we hope that it won't happen anymore. Unfortunately, we couldn't pay these contributions in retrospect because it's an insurance. So we just picked it up from this year, and moving forward, we're actually including the payments for NIMA and other statutory contributions, and we are on course. Thank you, Chair.
Is there documentary evidence attached that you're on course, and As we speak,
Yes, Chair.
there is the documentary evidence. Okay.
There on Appendix 7.
So, honorable members, you can peruse through that. PS, you can proceed with Honorable Amnima's question.
I want to just inform the committee that we've actually been paying social cash transfer on time. So the payment that came in December was actually intended for the January-February payment cycle. And that is how, Ministry of Finance have been releasing the funds. They release them in good time. Sometimes it can even be like at the beginning of a quarter. So we are also always able to plan better. So we can actually confirm that the November-December cycle was paid on time, and then the January-February cycle was also paid on time. They might have...
Chair.
Yes, Honorable.
Sorry to interrupt you. I think the controlling officer is not responding to my question. Okay, so I was getting confused. Thank you.
Thank you. You can proceed, PS.
Okay, I've finished making the submission. We have been paying on time. I think even the whole last year we paid on time.
Now we can look at the question from Honorable Amnima. Honorable Amnima, rephrase the question. I've seen PS shaking her head, so you can rephrase the question.
Chair, I was asking, we have these 248,000 deductions on NEMA. On these, but why is it only being discovered at audit? And how long have you been engaging the staff? Do you have internal audit in the ministry that can pick this up before that?
Thank you. PS, you can proceed.
What had actually occurred on this particular one is this bunch of contracts were signed before the NEMA became operational. And then, unfortunately, when NEMA became operational, it was not picked up in the ministry that these contracts had not had the provision for NEMA, and they continued running as is. Yes, we do have an audit unit, department in the ministry, and yes, it should have been picked up by ourselves. And it's one of the things that we deeply regret, and we will put in place measures to ensure that contracts are reviewed when there are changes to statutory contributions. I submit.
Thank you. Progress. There's no follow-up question. Honorable Mukumbi.
Chair, I note that two number civil servants were placed on social cash transfer. And in your response, you are saying these are retired civil servants. And I want to find out from the controlling officer whether our guidelines do stipulate that retired civil servants must be placed on social cash transfer. And secondly, did you also ascertain whether these retired civil servants were actually getting their monthly pension benefits? Chair.
Thank you. Honorable Amnima.
Chair, I just also want to understand how a former civil servant becomes so vulnerable that they are immediately considered to be on social cash transfer. You know, Chair, I think we need the ministry to explain to this committee, you know, how they are deducing vulnerability. Someone who was formerly on a salary, of course, the salary scales differ. We agree, we acknowledge based on the positions, but a former civil servant, and because of the retirement letter, that is evidence that he is vulnerable. Are we sure, Chair, that the retirement letter should be evidence of vulnerability? So if I retire as a member of parliament, I can submit to social to the Ministry of Community and say I'm vulnerable. What I want to understand, Chair, is that obviously the expectation is that social programs were meant to alleviate poverty, and if the poverty levels in this country are increasing, it means either the beneficiaries are the wrong people, the vulnerable viable, are they graduating? So we need to know this vulnerability. If a rate of retirement for a local court messenger and general worker is sufficient evidence that someone is vulnerable.
PS, you can proceed and answer the two questions. And just before PS, you proceed, honorable members, guidance. As we proceed, we have delayed banking of uncollected transfer. We have, sorry. That's where we have delayed banking. We can look at that. There's unauthorized payments, and there's also an account for fewer impress. Those will look at them together. PS, you can proceed.
On this one, yes, the two had been working in the civil service. One of them had been working as a local court messenger. The other one is a general worker. The unfortunate thing is they were able to pass the proxy means test, which is what we actually use to assess vulnerability. And then there's also community validation by the CWACs, so that even in that community, they were correctly identified as vulnerable. So sometimes it is lifestyle, yes, that makes a person vulnerable. And while, to my knowledge, we've not had yet a former member of parliament applying on the program, but if they were... No. Okay. If they were, they would also be eligible to apply, and if they would pass the proxy means test, they would be placed on social cash transfer. I submit.
Thank you. That was on the lighter note. Thank you so much. We can proceed. I think that's a straightforward issue. There's those guidelines and PSs are submitted. We can proceed. Yeah. Yes, Honorable
Mukumbi said, was asked if the minister did ascertain if they were on their monthly pensions. Did they ascertain that these former civil servants, whether they were not getting their monthly pensions?
PS, you can clarify on that. Then Honorable Daka, you come in.
This is coming from the gentleman behind you, Sydney. Did you assess?
Mr. Sydney, you can take a seat there and tell us if you did an assessment.
Chair, maybe I take it up?
Yes, Chair, you can proceed.
Thank you. Chair, for the general workers, they don't get the monthly pension, so they can qualify to be vulnerable. It's different from us who are many civil servants, them that are general workers. So for the general workers, they don't get the monthly payment. Thank you.
Thank you. You've gotten the answer? There's a messenger and general worker. They are the same, the casual. Okay, we can proceed, honorable colleagues. Honorable Daka, then Honorable Lungu, we can proceed.
Chair, I would like to take the controlling officer to delay the banking of uncollected transfers. Chair, we have seen people of Muchinga and the Western Province being denied a social cash transfer for 6 months. Some officers opted to delay the banking of these uncollected transfers. Controlling officer, why did it have to take your officers over 100 days to bank the uncollected fund? That's the first question. And what measures have you put in place to ensure that the uncollected funds for the beneficiaries are banked promptly? Chair, I submit.
Thank you, Honorable Lungu.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, on the same issue of delayed banking, I think in the past there was an issue where one of the teachers was murdered and we lost a life. That person, she was married, she had children. To avoid such issues to reoccur in future, since the guidance is saying between 30 to, the delayment was 30 to 306, which is not acceptable. What measures are you putting in place to avoid such kind of things? Because these are monies which are supposed to benefit our people who are very, very vulnerable in society. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Mwila, then Honorable Amnyima.
Thank you, Chair. Also, a follow-up on this same issue. So, when this money is unbanked, is it kept in a safe at the office, or the officers keep this money wherever they choose? Since it's not deposited in the bank, where is the money kept physically? Thank you.
Honorable Amnyima.
Chair, I note there that for Mongu and Nalolo, the delay was as a result of changes regarding pay point managers prior to the payment of the bi-monthly. Now, when you look at Mongu, it's 38 to 178 days delay on payment. When you look at Nalolo, 32 to 125. And these are huge sums, Chair. You add 119,200 plus 22, almost 140,000 delay of. Now, the change of pay point managers, at what point does it happen? Can just someone decide, or I don't know your procedures, maybe PS explain to us, how does this change of pay point managers happen immediately prior to payment of bi-monthly transfers without foreseeing an inconvenience? Because this inconvenience of delay should be foreseen. I submit, Chair.
Thank you. PS, those questions, you can proceed and answer them. Thank you.
Okay, first, now the Honorable has stepped out, who was asking about the delays. The delays in banking, which are covered in this, there are actually delays where the money is not collected. For some reason, the beneficiary has not turned up. So those monies are still kept by the pay point managers, and they are to be taken back to the bank. But according to the guidelines, all that is supposed to happen within 72 hours. And we have a situation where, after 72 hours, sorry. But we have a situation where these pay point managers, they are actually from other ministries. They are mostly from the Ministry of Education, and some are from the Ministry of Health. So they also have their own work schedules and their own priorities. So that is one of the factors that leads to these delays. If you've noticed that on this one, we've actually warned the officers, and these are verbal warnings, because they are in other ministries. There's actually, very little we can do unless we just then replace them. The director what measures we are putting in place to put this to an end? We are actually starting to pay beneficiaries digitally. That is, we pay them on their phones, or we pay through a payment service provider, which can be a bank, depending on what is available in their locality. We are very aware of cases, as the Honorable has indicated, of PayPoint managers getting murdered, some of them getting attacked, and that is the only way it will actually end, when we stop having these large amounts of money being transported through long distances. The Director, Social Welfare, will speak to the process for replacing a PayPoint manager.
Thank you. PS, the Director can proceed.
Thank you so much, Chair. Thank you so much, honorable members. Yes, when there are a number of reasons that may cause us to replace a PayPoint manager. One of them is that maybe the PayPoint manager may be transferred, because these are the people that are working in Ministry of Health or Ministry of Education. So if that person is transferred, there's need to replace them. Some may be ill. Some may also die, so that requires us to replace them. And for us to bring in new ones, we have to train them. We have to take them through the guidelines on how social cash transfer operates and how they should adhere to it. And that is how this process takes long. But as PS is saying, we are going digital in terms of payment. We know that we may face a bit of some challenges because of infrastructure challenges that the country is facing in terms of communication, gadgets, and network. But we will go full-blown out to ensure that maybe by the end of the year, our payments are 90% digital, so that some of these things fall off. Thank you, Chair. I submit.
Yeah, before Honorable Amnyima and Honorable Lungu comes in, I don't think by mentioning digital, we are resolving this issue, PS. Because if my memory serves me right, you had millions of kwachas which were with Zona, the other subscribed, all these service providers. Either there were some mistakes and those monies had stayed with them, which I hope by now the ministry should have cleaned it up to that effect, to ensure that those beneficiaries have access to those funds. And if not, they are not been identified, or errors in their transmission in terms of their phone numbers and what, I hope that those funds have been transferred back from those service providers to government to see and find alternative ways and means to ensure that those people get their funds. I think you give us also just where we are at on those issues, because they're still outstanding. So when you mentioned digital, it just reminded me on those issues we're dealing with. Honorable Amnyima, you can come in, then Honorable Lungu, then PS, you answer the three. Mine is just a clarification.
Thank you, Chair. Controlling Officer, are you aware that when your payment are delayed, the office that is hammered with queries is the Office of the Member of Parliament? And your office as community does not bother to communicate to the office of the area members of parliament, so that when they engage the people, they can know that the PayPoint managers were changed for this reason. Here your director is explaining they may be sick, they may be transferred, and I'm the area member of parliament for Nalolo, and I'm not aware about the sick PayPoint managers or the transferred. So it's very important because you see the office chair through you gives oversight, and you may wish to know, Chair, that especially when it comes to social cash transfer, it's a highly sensitive issue, and going forward with your ministry going to be stop being economical with such information, so that all stakeholders at a district level understand, and that you know, the interpretation that the people have is that it is the PayPoint manager who just doesn't want to pay. You know, all these delays. So, Chair, through you, I wanted to ask the PS if going forward in resolving this, they will be communicating adequately enough so that we can know this and not discover from the Auditor General's report when it can be avoided before the fact.
Thank you. Honorable Lungu.
Thank you, Chair. PS, in your submission, you talked about providing platform like Airtel. Then you also talked about other platform like those that are near the banks. I would like to know that before these provisions comes in, those monies that are uncollected, what measures are you going to put in place so that these monies are kept in a safe custody? Thank you.
Thank you. PS, you can proceed. There are those two questions and my clarifications. Thank you.
Your clarification, Chair. One of the things that we've actually been working on this year is a revision of the social cash transfer guidelines. And one of the things that we have tightened up on, and we're still tightening up on, is reconciliations. We have introduced, what's this system? Navision, which is actually been deployed up to district level. Of course, we still have some challenges with connectivity and training, but it is something that we are getting better at. And one of the outcomes from transferring the money digitally is that we will now have the payment service providers being expected to provide us with the reconciliation within an agreed time period. So hopefully this will not longer be the case. Honorable Wamwima, we recognize members of parliament as very important stakeholders in this, and we are aware that most of the beneficiaries do prefer to take their problems to the MP. But what that means is the resolution ends up taking longer than it would, because sometimes you find that you haven't been to a particular village in 3 months, and this person has been waiting until the MP gets there. We are working on an improved communication strategy. One of the things that we did, I think a week or two ago, was that we engaged the members of parliament to just have an interaction with them and share with them how we're working. And communication is a two-way thing. So we are also very, very open to you as members of parliament getting in touch with ourselves and giving us advice on how we can improve even with our guideline. The other thing that we are going to utilize as part of our communication strategy with also going digital is that we'll be able to message. We'll be able to send communication messages onto the phone. And on that platform, if your stakeholders, other stakeholders are interested, we can also include them in the messaging that is going out, because we are going to have to do the messaging in local languages to be relevant, and we are also going to actually have to do messages like clips, not just text. So on that one, Honorable Lungu, on the uncollected monies, we work closely mostly with paypoint managers from the Ministry of Education. And one of the understanding is that we get to actually use the safes that are in place in schools for safekeeping of the money if they are not collected and before they are deposited. But as we are on that also, we have also, through our finance department, we are also in the process of procuring safes to just hold monies and other valuables in our districts. But we are hoping, while we are aware that yes, it is not possible at this point in time to pay digitally 100% of the beneficiary list, we do hope that we'll get to a high enough number to reduce the amount of money that is having to be stored in safes across the country. I submit.
Thank you. Progress. Honorable Vice Chair.
Mine is on unauthorized payments, Chair. PS, when were the payment vouchers approved? And why were the approved payment vouchers not presented to the auditors when they came on the ground? I submit, Chair.
Thank you. Honorable Amnyuma.
Chair, these are unapproved unauthorized payments in Nalolo. I'm just on appendix, I think it's appendix 9. So these, you can't tell when they were written. No stamp, unless if the photocopy is just to add on the. We can write. I can type this and write. The standard of government documents, they must have a stamp to show that this was written. We request this from all ministries, because you can sit on Microsoft or Excel and type this and submit it. So, Chair, I want to know if the Office of the Auditor General has verified these documents, and what proof is there that these were done on the day of the date. This date written, what proof is there? Submit, Chair.
Thank you. PS, you can proceed.
Director Social will respond to this.
Director Social can proceed and respond to.
Yeah. You want to respond to it?
Are you the Director Social?
No, Chair. He's the financial management specialist.
Oh, okay, I remember him. I remember him.
So maybe, yeah.
The specialist, yes. I remember him. You can proceed and help the director, the specialist.
Thank you, Chair. The payments in question, I must admit that they were all authorized. The problem we had was the verification, because the audit was taking place in two areas, at HQ as well as at provincial level. So during the verification process, the payments were moving from the district level to the ministry headquarters. Otherwise, all the payments, Chair, you can even see from the Auditor General's report, they are all crossed and verified by Auditor General at provincial level. So I think it was a movement. Otherwise, from Nalolo, all the payments were approved and verified according to the social cash transfer guidelines I submit.
Thank you, Auditor General. Can you clarify that point? If they were all approved accordingly.
Thank you very much, Chair. I think at the time of the audit, of course, this was not given, but in something, because to just look at the face of it, I think we also need to look at the files just to counter check. So we need to go and do an in-depth check beyond these documents. If you see, for instance, where authorities are, it's blank. So we would need to perhaps relook beyond just the face of it. But as I said, these are just coming here as evidence, and we need to perhaps counter check. I submit.
Thank you. So, Mr. Specialist, speak on your behalf. Say, from the ministry's perspective, these documents have been approved. There's a person who raised the voucher, the one who's supposed to check, and approved. But from the auditor's perspective, they need to be verified. Just like Honorable Wamnyima has raised that issue. Honorable Daka? Okay. So PS, yes, Honorable Wamnyima.
I have a question for the specialist. Let him go to the appendix of this, appendix 9. So on the Auditor General raised issues of authorities. On receipt stamp there, are you seeing that it is blank?
Specialist. Honorable, you can switch off the mic.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. We have 3 levels of authority. The first one is on the memo, where authority is given to withdraw funds. So the officer in charge of that particular district will authenticate by signature, and of course there is a stamp. But on the voucher, I can see there is no stamp, but the standard practice is that all the vouchers must be signed. I submit.
I'm still not convinced. I'm still not convinced. Honorable Vice Chair, then Honorable Amnyuma.
Thank you, Chair. In his submission, the specialist, Honorable Chair, said that the vouchers were approved while the auditor is here. Is he in order to mislead this August House? And if they were approved, why is it an audit query? Why didn't he submit them during the time they came on the ground? He didn't respond to the last part of my question.
Thank you, Honorable Amnyuma.
Chair, the financial specialist is submitting to this committee that a document has a provision for a stamp, but it's okay if there's no stamp as long as the officer signs. Which standard government procedure are you referring to? Where the document provides for a stamp, no, it's okay as long as the officer signs. You can sign this any day. Even today you can sign it and backdate it. So this document provides for a stamp. Why are you okay as a financial specialist not to have stamp?
Thank you. I don't know if it's a PS now or if it's a specialist. Financial specialist, can you clarify? And also I think Director of Finance, you can help your specialist. What is the standard procedure? If there's a date stamp, authentication, approvals and all that. I think they're very important because this is an accountable document. I can just go in the corridor, I can have a blank and fill it in. Why this one signs what, and then we bring it to say it was approved. I don't think that's why Auditor General is saying they need to verify, because the authenticity is being doubted here. Director of Finance, maybe you can help us.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. Maybe in brief, there are certain stages that have to be followed. Of course, the officer will raise the request as an originating officer, which is usually generally on a memo. Okay. Then once that memo is written, it's now presented before the authorizing office. It could be a warrant order or a sub-warrant order. So at the district level is the sub-warrant order, which is the district social welfare officer. So once that memo is appropriately approved, if it is approved, then just to proceed now to raise the actual payment voucher. So on the payment voucher, you have, I think, about 4 areas that are there. You have the area where the person who compiles the voucher indicates their name and their details. Then you have the area where the authorization is done on the face of the payment voucher. And the authorization officer is expected also to stamp that they have authorized the payment voucher. So it is a requirement. But in this case, clearly there was obviously an oversight from our officers. And I think I may hasten to say that as a ministry, we have been trying to provide a lot of training to our district staff. As you may be aware, Honorable Chair, is that our district staff are non-accounting officers. But however, the ministry has endeavored to provide training and guidance to these officers. And I think on this part, maybe we shouldn't have done, we omitted the fact that the officers should be stamping these payment voucher to authenticate them. I submit, Chair.
Thank you. The financial specialists don't come and mislead us here. What submission the Director of Finance has given, that is an ideal situation. And if someone explains like that, we have no issue. And we just caution and ensure that that is adhered to. So you are on record, Mr. Specialist, again, that you've come to mislead this committee. You have to apologize and withdraw your statement, sir. You can proceed and withdraw your statement because those documents are not authentic. You can proceed.
I withdraw the statement, Chair.
Thank you. Let's make progress. Honorable Amnima.
Chair, this document must be removed from this submission. They are not verified.
Yes, so proceed. Auditor General, take note on those documentation that either you have them verified, look at the signatures, see who signed, you know your verification. So they cannot be admitted in this Honorable Committee. Honorable colleagues, we can proceed due to time. Let's look at unaccounted for fuel impressed, one question. Payment of suppliers without tax clearance, one question. Then we can proceed to C, which is, we'll look at Mercy Tsenga Hill. So those two items, let me have people to ask questions and we proceed. Honorable Daka.
Thank you, Chair. On unaccounted for fuel impressed in Kalomo district of Southern Province, we have seen these 3 aiding officers. Controlling officer, the committee would want to find out whether you have recovered the funds in question from these 3 officers. Chairperson, I submit.
Thank you. Honorable Vice Chair, for the question, can proceed.
On payments to suppliers without tax clearance certificate, PS, why did you procure with an organization which didn't present tax clearance when we know that it's a requirement? I submit, Chair.
Thank you. We can proceed and answer those 2 questions. Anyone who's taking up payment to suppliers without tax clearance? Honorable Mwila, you can take up that one. After the PS answers, you can ask your question. PS, you can proceed and answer those 2 questions.
The recovery for the fuel in Kalomo has not yet been done. We have actually already contacted the provincial administration for them to effect payments on their payroll. I was speaking to the PS in Southern Province, and the delay has been actually them concluding their disciplinary process, but it is something that is going to happen. We'll be able to report that it has been done. On the supplier without a tax clearance, this was actually the hostels board of, which is part of government, and our officer engaged them. And they were also not aware, both the Mungu Hostels Board and our office in Mungu, that there was going to be need for a separate TPIN and TPIN certificate per hostel. So what was presented at that time was actually the TPIN number for the Hostels Board headquarters, which was not acceptable. And we have been guided by the Auditor General and have been engaging with the Hostels Board, and they have since been able to obtain a certificate and TPIN for the Mungu hostel, which is actually part of this submission on Appendix 11. I submit.
Thank you. Honorable Amnima.
Chair, I'm moving to the May seat shortage. Honorable Vice Chair asked the question that before that, so we're on 8.
The one on page 13?
Yes, yes, yes.
So, Honorable Mnyima, you can take the one, the Senga Hill?
Yes.
So, take Senga Hill. Honorable Daka, you do also unaccounted for excess bean seed, Senga Hill. Honorable Sabao, irregular distribution of food security packs, Northern Province. And Honorable Lungu, you take on delay in distribution of inputs, Lundazi District. Honorable Mukumbi, FISU beneficiary sharing the same NRC. So we can proceed.
Thank you, Chair. Controlling Officer, your submission on page 13, Senga Hill was allocated 2,123 by 10. And your officer on the ground only distributes 2,108, reflecting a shortage of 15 bags. Your response, this particular officer has been charged and has been stopped from undertaking their duties. My question therefore follows that this undersupply, did it affect beneficiaries? And if it did you distribute farming inputs to these beneficiaries? And has this officer explained how miraculously 15 bags missed? Because just charging him and saying stop, collect, did he steal them? Or what happened to these 15 bags? Because the 15 bags is nowhere. Yes, I submit, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Daka.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I'll take the controlling officer to unaccounted for excess bean seed, Senga Hill. Controlling officer, in your response, you have indicated that the excess 515 bags of beans delivered was an oversight on the part of the supplier. Now the committee would want to know where were the bags of bean seed stored, since at the time of the audit, the bags of beans were not there. The second question, controlling officer, what were the reasons for not physically showing the auditors the bags of beans at the time of the audit? I submit, Chairperson.
Thank you. PS, you can proceed with those two questions.
No. On the 15 bags of maize seed, they were actually not delivered. And that is why, and yes, it affected the distribution to beneficiaries. It meant that 15 households did not get their maize seed, and it affected their food security. That is why the officer has been charged with negligence, and also, I think, moved from working as a district community development officer. So, if you go to the appendix, the supplier did then deliver the 15 bags of seed, but that was done like after this particular planting season. For Senga Hill, the 515 bags of beans were actually over-delivered, and it was they were then collected by the supplier at their own cost. That is why they were not available in storage. Submit.
Thank you. Any follow-up questions to that effect, Honorable Mnyima?
Thank you very much. Thank you, Controlling Officer, for your submission. If this was an issue of the supplier, why are we charging this officer? Why are we allowing a supplier to deliver after the farming season?
Thank you. Honorable Daka, any clarification? PS, you can proceed.
This actually was brought to the attention of headquarters after the planting season. So the officer was negligent in that they did not inform us at the time that they were receiving, that there was actually a shortfall there, and they were not going to be able to give all the beneficiaries. That is why the officer has been charged, just for that.
Make some progress on those issues. Honorable Sabao.
Thank you, Chair. Mine is on irregular distribution of food security packs, Northern Province. Controlling Officer, in your response, you have indicated that a beneficiary in Sama registered in 2 neighboring SWACs and subsequently collected the inputs in question, and then the deposit slips are available for audit. My question is, why didn't you provide the deposit slips when the auditors came? And what further investigation are still being conducted with regard to the irregular distribution of farming inputs for Senga Hill? I submit.
Thank you, Honorable Lungu.
Thank you, Chair. I'm taking delays in distribution of inputs in Rundazi. It was delayed between 21 to 61 days. PS, and in your submission, Controlling Officer, you indicated that the inputs were distributed within the planting season, taking into account the delayed rainfall pattern and consultation with agriculture extension officers in the district. My question is, why did you have to distribute the inputs to the beneficiaries in December when the planting season had already begun? My second question, what evidence is there to show that the farmers who received the farming inputs in December were not affected by the delayed distribution of farming inputs? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. PS, you can proceed.
Honorable Vice Chair, this is still appearing. The regular distribution of food packs, it's still appearing because this was actually brought to our attention through the audit. And the recoveries from the beneficiaries where we have supporting deposit slips were actually made in September this year. That is why it's still in the report. So the time that the auditors were in the ministry, the deposit slips were not available. Honorable Daka, we actually have the meteorological department report to show that the distribution was well within the rainfall pattern. So the beneficiaries were actually able to plant within time. And one of the things that we are doing with the erratic rainfall pattern is we're actually now ensuring the beneficiaries so that when it happens that the rainfall pattern works against them, they do not lose everything but are able to recover something through a payout. I submit.
Thank you. Any follow-up questions? If none, Honorable Mwila can proceed on the next question. Have you answered the Lundazi? The one which she answered? Okay. Okay, you can do a follow-up question, Honorable.
Thank you, Chair. PS, as you are aware that the days that we are in, the rain pattern are changing time and again. Have you come up with a deliberate policy to ensure these farmers so that in case they don't get favored rains, maybe the insurance, they get something from insurance? So thank you, Chair.
Thank you. PS, you can proceed and make a clarification.
Yes, there is insurance available. In fact, this year at the beginning of the year, I think January and February, we actually had a payout on the drought from the African Arc Insurance, which is done under disaster management unit. But we also, as a ministry, are providing insurance for up to 100,000 farmers for each planting season. And we currently have received a payout on last year's planting season, which we will distribute to affected farmers. We have insured them with Zambia State Insurance Corporation. I submit.
Thank you. Honorable Mwila, we take the next question. Then Honorable Mukumbi, you. So Honorable Mwila can proceed with questionable NRC duplicates. Honorable Mukumbi, you look at unaccounted for inputs in Chinsali, so that will give you time. Then Honorable Amnyima, irregular inclusion of farmer support beneficiaries program, that is 5. Then Honorable Dak, I think that will be the last one. Then the other members can chip in. So Honorable Mwila, you can proceed.
Thank you, Chair. On the issue of duplicate NRCs, the findings in the report is that we have 238 beneficiaries in 6 districts. So my question, first of all, is that are these duplicate NRCs in the same districts? For example, we have Chipangali on the table here. The districts have been named. So are these duplicate NRCs found in the same districts being worked on by the same officers, so that they could have been screened at the beginning of the exercise and the proper evidence attached to ensure that we are not dealing with one and the same person? And then further to that, I think to convince the committee that these are not the same person, we needed to also look at the copies of the NRCs so that we see that, of course, the names are different, though they are sharing the same NRCs. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Mwila. Then there's an issue of under collection of agriculture produce, PS. And this is, I think, in line with your FSP guidelines, that when farmers, you give them these inputs when they grow, you also get some inputs from them. But there was an under collection. I think amount not collected amounting to 6,114,000. Then in your submission, you are saying that these are based on crop performance. And if the crop does not perform well, then you do not collect, as it were. I think an issue of insurance was raised by Honorable Lungu, and maybe just also make us understand, because when there's an insurance and these are part of the collections you are supposed to make, does that money come to the government in terms of what you're supposed to collect from that portion which you're supposed to collect from the farmers? Maybe we just would like to understand. And if not, you've highlighted also that only 100 farmers are insured. 100,000, yes, are insured every year. How many farmers do you have under this program? You can proceed. Thank you.
On the under collection of agricultural produce, the paybacks that we collect from the farmers do not actually come to government. They are for the communities so that they can build up on food security. Ideally, it's supposed to be a grain bank, but what has been happening is communities change these these paybacks into cash. Like they'll sell produce and then pay cash. Then the community sits down with the district community development officer and they agree on what assets they want to buy. So what has been happening is that the communities buy assets for themselves. They've been buying themselves hammer mills, they've been buying themselves shellers, they've been buying themselves oil presses, some of them have bought themselves cattle, goats and hens. So those things don't, the paybacks, when the crop fails, it's actually a loss to the community, and then it's also a loss to government because we are not attaining the outcome that we want, that the communities will have assets. We actually support 240,000 farmers per year under the FSP, 40,000 under the wetlands, and 200,000 under the rain-fed. Unfortunately, due to resources constraint, we only have been able to ensure up to 100,000 farmers. But what happens with the payout, it still goes into the community, because these farmers are placed on this program for 2 years. And the outcome is that at the end of this program, they should be able to have assets within the community for themselves, either small animals or machinery. I submit.
Thank you. The Honorable Mwila's question, I don't know if you can attempt to answer it. Duplicate NRCs, yes.
The duplicate NRCs is, it's actually not only in these districts that have been there, it's actually across all the districts. And yes, we do verify, because what happens with our system is that if two people share the same NRC, whichever districts uploads that NRC first, that one will be kept, accepted, the other one will be rejected. So we actually ended up with backlog. I think we ended up as a ministry, if you read the report from the Home Affairs, we actually ended up with, I think, over 28,000, which we then engaged with Secretary to Treasury so that we could pay these beneficiaries outside the system. Yes, it's verified that they are different people. And it's actually something that is beyond our ministry, and we've been guided that we escalated to Cabinet Office so that they'll be able to engage with Secretary to Treasury. That's how we'll be able to deal with all the beneficiaries that are affected by this problem.
Thank you, PS. It's important that this is escalated, because if you've ascertained that there's duplication, you've got this line. I was just looking at some names, Sinyangwe, Petronella, someone is in Nakonde, someone is another area, but they've got the same NRC number. I think it's important that it's escalated to ensure that if you've identified those, then corrections can be made to that effect, so that even as you proceed into another season, you don't have those issues. Imagine you'll be carrying on this issue. Again, you give, knowing that yes, are different people, even if they have same NRC, and then the query will still arise to that effect. So I think this is not the first time. Even the previous year, we were talking about some of these issues under ministry. So I think it's important that this issue is escalated and corrected. NRC numbers, then we can move forward to that effect. Yes, they can try and sieve through and see to the larger extent that those you've identified, they can be corrected. Then now you proceed with the other issues. I just thought of commenting on that issue. Honorable Mukumbi.
Thank you, Chair. Unaccounted for inputs for Chinsari district. Chair, we note that the district did receive inputs amounting to about 8.1 million. Then this particular officer did only acquit for about 6.5 million, and about 1.6 million worth of inputs were not acquitted by this particular officer. And now management is saying that yes, they do acknowledge an investigation was instituted, and that was due to an error. So I want to find out from the returning officer, what was the error in terms of quantity and the cost involved? Did we come up with that? The second part is they are saying, well, we did, the officer did submit an acquittal sheet. But Chair, if you look at this acquittal sheet and you subject it to forensics, you realize that probably someone just sat under a tree and started writing the names. Because the handwriting is the same, everything the same. Well, we don't want to take that route. The officer was charged, and I just want to know, in terms of this error, what quantities are talking about. I hope you understand my question.
Thank you.
Asami Chair.
Yes, you can proceed.
Honorable Mukupi, I hope I've understood you correctly. When we say that there's an error, we are not talking about the error in the quantity that the Auditor General input here as living inputs for 1.6520,040 unaccounted for. We're saying that the error was actually done with the recording. And this is where we've actually had issues with the officer, and this is how the officer has been charged and cautioned, and there are other recommendations that have been put in place. I submit.
Any follow-up question, Honorable Mkumbi?
Chair, it seems you're saying management investigations reveals that there was an error when recording the inputs issued by our officer. And management has since cautioned and charged this particular officer for negligence. So, in terms of quantity, what happened? What was an error?
Thank you.
What was involved here? And the cost itself.
Thank you, Honorable Mkumbi. You can switch off the mic. PS, you can proceed or delegate the question. Thank you.
I'm delegating it to the Director Community Development.
Director Community Development, you can proceed and help the PS on that issue of clarification.
Thank you, Chair. Regarding this matter on the error, the District Community Development Officer has been asked to account, and we have sent people on the ground to go and see the people that were purported not to have received the inputs. And what has come out is that people did receive the inputs, but then there's other information that has come out. So there is, the case is still being looked at. Even as at yesterday, we were receiving reports. So I think I would ask that we submit further reports regarding this issue.
Thank you. Honorable Mkumbi.
Chair, that is the response I was really looking forward to because PS, I worked in this ministry in the 90s. I think we're one of the pioneers of these programs. So I know too well how all these things function. So that is a good response. Investigate further, and you will realize that this person just sat and started indicating the names of the beneficiaries. Chair, submit.
Thank you. Honorable Amnima can proceed with it.
Thank you very much, Chair. Chair, the FISIP and FSP programs, they constitute the larger part of our budget, and they are meant to benefit the vulnerable. Now, Chair, we have a situation here where 2,153 beneficiaries, they get FSP, and again they get FISIP, depriving the vulnerable. So we are appropriating money to attend to the vulnerable so that we end poverty, but poverty keeps on increasing. So controlling officer, how are you failing to detect these 2,153? The largest being from Vubwi, 350 beneficiaries. They get FSP, they go get VSIP. And we are allowing this, in short, we have deprived 2,153 who should have got. So why did the ministry fail to detect this through its daily controls? And it had to be detected at audit, Chair. If there was no audit, there would be still what we call double tovera, meaning both, people eating both sides. So why did this have to be detected through through audit? And what measures are you taking to avoid this? Because as you may be aware, these inputs are costing over 7 million. So 7 million kwacha. I submit.
Thank you. Honorable Daka.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, I've noticed that there are a lot of issues at Sengayo. All the time, Sengayo. Chair, this time around, I would like to take the controlling officer to unaccounted for stores, same district, Sengayo. Fuel costing 7,000 with no receipts and disposal details this time around. Controlling officer, why didn't you provide the receipt and disposal details to the auditors when they were on the ground? The second question is, how genuine are the documents that are being presented now, the unverified document by the Auditor General? Mr. Chairperson, I submit.
Thank you. Honorable Vice Chair.
Thank you, Chair. Mine is a follow-up on the FSIP FSP, considering that FSIP is under Ministry of Agriculture, then FSP is under your ministry. And what I've seen on the ground is that the victims of this are these who are receiving FSP, because they are saying us we are given a small number of pack while our friends from FSIP are receiving more. So do you have a working relationship with the Ministry of Agriculture so that you come up with a strategy on how we are going to calm this situation on the ground? I submit.
Thank you. PS, you can proceed with those 3 questions.
On this one, the challenge has actually been that FSP, Honorable Wamunyima, the FSP has actually been a paper-based, has been running a paper-based system. That everything we actually record, and we were having these registered, kept in districts. So we did not even have a centralized beneficiary list. And then FSIP currently, well, at this point in time was ahead of us in that they had actually gone electronic, and actually had the electronic beneficiary list. So what has since happened, with support from our cooperating partners, we also now have an electronic and centralized beneficiary list, which we are going to be able to run against other databases, so that information like this will be able to come out quickly. What happened in this is it's regrettable, but we would also like to point out that the 2 programs are actually run differently. Ours is a conditional grant where you're going to be expected to then acquire some assets in your community, while the one for agriculture, you're actually making, I think, a financial contribution. You pay something into a cooperative to access it. So we target, I think, different groups. Ours are the vulnerable farmers who are identified by community welfare assistance committees. So we are, at the moment, we are piloting our electronic register, which also includes the ability to generate warehouse reconciliations. So we are hoping, and we've developed new guidelines as well for food security pack. So we are hoping that there's going to be a reduction in all these things that have been coming up before you. On, is it Honorable Mukupi? How genuine are the, oh, it's Honorable Daka.
Honorable Daka.
We assume that they are genuine in that the government officers are presenting them to us. Because if we're to investigate further, we'll then be able to establish whether they are not genuine.
Honorable Daka, rephrase your question. PS, you can switch off the mic.
My first question was that at the time of the audit, why was it a problem for you to provide the receipts and the disposal details? Why now? Why are you bringing them to this committee? We are not auditors ourselves. We just provide oversight. Why was it a problem to provide the receipts and the disposal details?
Thank you. PS, you can proceed.
I'll delegate this to the Director Community Development.
Director Community Development, you can proceed.
Thank you, Chair. At the time of the auditor's queries, we weren't able to, provide the receipts because the officer responsible had not, provided them. We have had to work through his bosses at the top to, push to get the documentation to come through. And so we have them now, and we have put them into the documentation. Thank you.
Honorable Amnyima.
Thank you, Chair. Why do you have to push for documents that should be accessible? So the authenticity, is questionable, highly questionable. Auditable documents are available. You have to use his superiors for him to give them. This person, Chair, have you engaged his bosses to discipline him? Because we can't have a situation where the Office of the Auditor General, which is a constitutional office, should push for documents. So their function is constitutional. It's not regulated really by, it's a procedure, it's a policy, it's a constitutional function. So therefore, and it's against the Public Finance Management Act to resist to provide documents to the Office of the Auditor General. So we will not take lightly an officer who wants to be pushed through his superiors to provide information. Then you bring that information to us here, to the committee. We can't verify it. I submit, Chair.
Thank you. PS, I'm sure you've taken that issue. It's not a light issue. It's a very, very important aspect to that effect. The Honorable Amnyima has just submitted to you, and it's imperative that as a controlling officer, you take that seriously. Honorable colleagues, any point of clarification? If not, I'll ask Auditor General, do you have anything?
Just to maybe conclude, I think it's apparent, I think, that the PS needs to be helped by the internal audit. Equally, even the finance director, there are a lot of issues that could have been dictated by the internal audit, and we let this, I think the honorables have ably been able to see the problem. I think the internal audit and the finance, in terms of approving, Chair, we have a huge task because we need to verify and give an appropriate status report, and some of the documentation, because it's just coming here now, it means we need to interrogate some of these documents so that we are able to give a correct position as we verify.
Thank you so much, Office of the Auditor General, for that submission. PS, there are a lot of glaring issues. I think some of them we've just asked, but not in depth. I think if we have to hold you here, my thinking was we defer so that you come tomorrow, we come and finish. But however, Some of those things are administrative, which you can look at and make sure that they do not reoccur moving forward. I think especially issues to do with FSP and also issues to do with social cash transfer. These are some of the pertinent issues I think honorable members raised that you need to look into them and ensure that there is that harmonization. Issues of duplicate of NRCs is still coming. It's still also appearing in our standing report that it has not been taken off. As we look at that, is to be coming. So it's important that you escalate that, engage the relevant offices so that at least those who've identified, they can be harmonized and also recorrected so that as you move forward, because a part of your beneficiaries, they can receive their packages minus being cited in the Auditor General's report. So those are some of the main issues which are emanating from the Office of the Auditor General, which we want you to work on in your ministry to ensure that you adhere to the Public Finance Management Act number 1 of 2018 and other financial regulations to that effect. We also requested through your procurement office for, I think, those questions honorable members asked, that we have the evaluation report, submitted documents of tender and actual documents that also Auditor General can look at them. We can also look at them and understand some of those lots where you have 4 lots awarded to one person, and as it were, so that we just have a feel and understand how that document was couched, because we want to ensure that there's accountability, also adherence to certain Public Procurement Act number 8 of 2020, sorry, and will not hesitate to make certain recommendations, PS, to if we see that processes and procedures are not being followed. And when we are speaking here, sometimes it seems like it's jokes, but we ensure that some of these things are implemented, and we know how they're implemented. So it's important that those suggestions are followed to the latter, and also those things requested are being submitted. Also, the failure to deduct NIMA, I think it's one thing that should not happen. The Director of Finance and HR, those things should be looked at from time to time, especially from those officers who are sitting at some of your projects. Community development, you have a lot of projects and also a lot of donor support to that effect. So that should be adhered to. And I think lastly, it's important that all these issues and questions PS honorable members have asked, and also submission from the Auditor General, that they had to and implemented, as we also proceed to recommend to that effect. So with that said, PS Secretariat, do take note that you liaise with community development so that those documentation can be provided, looked at. Then we can call you to come and look at that, and then after verified by Auditor General, so that honorable colleagues can also have the comfort that yes, this was done, and onward recommendations can be made to the executive, because our role is to provide oversight, and we will ensure that we'll provide it. We'll tell government so that some of these processes are streamlined, and the Public Procurement Act number 8 is coming to Parliament for amendment. So it's important that where we see gaps, especially you cadres coming from procurement fraternity, so that we can work together to ensure that we improve, because this is for the Zambian people. Service delivery culminates into, accountability culminates into good service delivered to the Zambian people. So let me take this opportunity, PS, to thank you most sincerely yet again for coming before this honorable committee to make your submission to that effect. And let me take this opportunity now to lift the immunity which was conferred before you and your officers that has been lifted, and you are free to go and have a good afternoon. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee, Auditor General. Indeed, we have got work to do, but we will respond to all the issues that you've raised. And thank you for bringing them up. It will make us work better.
There were 59,439 registered cashew nut farmers in Western Province.
The situation as it is, I'm incapacitated.
The good people of Petauke, especially in Nyika 1, where we don't have water.
This is now a serious risk on the people with Testezi. Last week we registered one maternal death.
Within the CDF, we can build palaces for all chiefs in our country.
Minister, when are we going to have money? When are we going to construct hospitals?
Catch us live on DSTV channel 272, OTV channel 28, Topstar channel 5, or visit the National Assembly of Zambia Facebook page. Parliament Television, bringing Parliament closer to you.
God knows you try your level best. I'm meeting them mindset. My go bora. Mativutompa chiteko. Wokoma palifanzi yokomerera. When you turn to your right, to your left, ubungo wona okomerera. Zuendera chibale kapena katangari. Mungati kumwamba, Yehova watirembera. Yes. Muntu ndani anopadiko. Anganeni no. Ena amaika chingira. Komangati kumwamba atereka yako iwe uipura. Be patient, bikira. Gati mulungu sama muziva. Asamuziwira pa iwe. Gati lesa sama muziva. Asamuziwira chayaba. Sana muone Father God in action. Asamuonera pa iwe. Chirero nyowa amaya samoto. Akafunze Mose. Panyanja matakula mulansevu. Akafunze Mose. Akala pasa identichete. Kumvetera mapempero ana akes. Oh Jehovah, amaona kalikonzeka pansi patua. No rush, achita zintu mundawi yake yoikika. Ambuye mulungu sachedwa. Chauta safulumila, komandawi yake ikangokwana. Woderera zanzi wanzo. Ngati mulungu sama muziwa. Asamuziwira pa iwe. Ngati resa sama muziwa. Asamuziwira chiyapa. Sana muone Father God in action. Asamuonera pa iwe. Mikango enjala kumango tiangana. Akafuse Danieli. Fikola eni timata kukwezega maudindo. Akafuse Yosefe. Kendeni fell. Musaka he kendi fell. Dok ana fire on the nail. Gati mulungu sama muziwa. Asamuziwira pa iwe. Gati mulungu sama muziwa. Asamuziwira chiyapa. Gati mpambe
him. Like, you can't do such a thing.
Yeah, I'm leaving.
Samson!
Who's this? You know this guy?
Babe, don't worry. This is just my useless ex.
Yeah, I know. Useless indeed.